Hey everybody, welcome back to my book chat channel. This is my March wrap up and April TBR. So we're just going to jump right into it. I have a art slideshow going on in the background, or rather an art video going on in the background just to keep things interesting. But it will be paused momentarily as I will throw up the titles, or rather the pictures of the books that I reference to. Just to keep things interesting. So for the for the month of April rather, oh my goodness, I'm getting my months mixed up. It's been a very long day. Okay. For the month of March, I actually didn't do too bad. I had set myself out to try and catch up on a lot of the books that I had fallen behind in. And in terms of catching up, it wasn't a bad month for reading. So to start things off, I'm still doing the analog, and that's reading one book of Anne's every month until it's in its completion for the series. So as I was a little bit behind on that, I ended up getting both books 2 and 3 completed. So Anne of Amberley and Anne of the Island, and then I read or did a buddy read with a gal from Instagram, and we read the second book in the A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, and the second one was called Close Comet Orbit, and that was actually a really good book. I really look forward to reading the third one to get the conclusion. And then for the book club that I'm a part of this month, the voted book was Little Women, and I'll be honest, I got a little ways into it, and it was a sweet story from where I stopped, but honestly, I found it rather dull, and I just couldn't bring myself to finish it, so I had DNF'd it, and it could be just the fact that I have read a couple of books now that are all along that same page. Jane Eyre, Little Women. I had started another one called Far From the Maddening Crowd, and while they all have good storylines and a relatively good pace, I found that my mind just really, really needed a break from that style of story. So, for the moment, I have DNF'd Little Women, and I did start Far From the Maddening Crowd, but I've put those ones aside for right now, and I have put my mind into a different book, hoping that a break from that style will be good. So I'll read something else, and then I'm hoping at the end of April to get back to that last one and maybe even try and finish Little Women. I don't know. Either way, I really needed a break from that style. So moving on, I started Flowers Over the Inferno. This one wasn't a planned read. It was something that I was supposed to read a little while ago as part of another group chat, and I completely forgot about it as things have been kind of crazy. So I jumped into that one real quick, and honestly, I didn't get very far in. My mind has just been having a really hard time getting into books lately, and so I started it, and it just didn't pull at me. It didn't, there was nothing to drag me into the story whatsoever. So again, I DNF'd it, and I might go back and give it a second try, maybe in the next month or two. But for the moment, I have DNF'd it. So I jumped into For a Change in Pace. I am part of yet another book group that has decided to read the Dresden Files, one every month, and this month, for the month of March, was book 1. I have technically already read book 1, which is called Stormfront, but just to refresh my memory, I quickly managed to read that one in completion, as I do most of my books through audiobook. So I zipped through that one real quick and found the mind break that I needed. There was humor, there was dry humor, there was something interesting, another story that I really enjoyed the first time I read it, and I enjoyed it even more the second time. So if you haven't read or started the Dresden Files, I'd highly recommend it. So for the month of March, it wasn't a bad month, and for the most part, I've caught up. So I'm going to continue my trend into reading things that I know will pull at me, and then attempt to get back into some of the ones that I've DNF'd, and maybe it'll stick long enough for me to finish them. So, which brings me to the month of April. So for the month of April, continuing with the analog, which is book 4, Anne of Windy or Windy Polars. So I'll be reading that one, along with, I've already started book 2 of the Dresden Files, which is called Foul Moon, and I'm really enjoying that so far. And then part of another group, it's, I guess, a book chat for the month of April. We'll be reading In the Hills Above the Grint Mill. I hope I'm saying that right. It's book 1 of, sounds like a series, and I'll be buddy reading that with, or doing a group chat read with Nikki from Instagram. And then I will be pushing my TBR to the limit, and I'm going to reread the Twilight series. I read this series, geez, almost 10 years ago, and it was something, or a series that I really enjoyed. I enjoy the movies as well, despite what people may or may not think or say towards it. So I intend to do all 4 books through audiobook as well, and then do another book by the same artist. It's called The Host. So I have a rather ambitious TBR for this month. And if I get through all of that and my mind is back to being a little bit more on the norm, then I may just jump back into Far From the Madding Crowd and maybe even Little Women. We'll see. Those 3 books that I've kind of DNF'd or put to the side, I may attempt to get back into those. So I have a very ambitious TBR for the month of April, but I think it should be really good. So that is my wrap up for the month of March and my TBR for the month of April. I thank you all so much for listening. I look forward to sharing another book review with you next week, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Happy Friday. Happy reading.